Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Lady Parts TV. And
we have chasing cats.
We have chasing cats. Oh, if we only had a video camera to show you. Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride.
And we have some proud things to talk about today, as we do often.
We mostly have some pride things to talk about. I don't know about proud things.
But we'll start with the stats. We tallied 24 shows, out of which 12, which is exactly 50%, were written or co-written by a woman, and 10, 42%.
42% is not bad for directors. Not bad at all.
I hope that with every year that goes by, we'll see these percentages go up. Anyway,
and I'm sure we will.
The 10 were directed by women, by the way.
I said that.
You did?
I did. I snuck it in.
Oh, okay. Well, we are going to start with a a movie that should have come out in June, and I'm happy it did, Rocketman.
Why should it have come out in June?
Because it's Pride Month.
Pride Month, of course.
Duh, Mimi. Written by Lee Hall and directed by Dexter Fletcher. It's in theaters now, and I can't urge you more to go and see it.
It's a tremendously accomplished and moving and exciting film.
Rocketman, of course, is the story of Elton John, and they call it a musical fantasy. And at first, I couldn't figure out what a musical fantasy is, and I will tell you exactly what a musical fantasy is, apparently, as it turns out. So you might have the easiest thing for me to compare it to, because it's so soon after, is Bohemian Rhapsody, which also tells the story of Queen and Freddie Mercury,
but in quite a different way.
In a different way, and in many different ways, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But in terms of the way that it's presented, so in Bohemian Rhapsody, there's a story and there's singing. The singing is the story of a band and a singer, and so they sing organically as part of performances, as part of recording sessions, etc. In Elton John's story, in Rocketman, the music is actually incorporated into the story as a musical. So it expresses emotion. It's a way of telling you what's going on in his head or what's going on in his life. And of course, sometimes it is part of the performances or the show. There are dancers. There are grand numbers in a way that, of course, Elton John should have.
Absolutely. There's glitter and glam for days and days and days.
And it took me a second to get used to that. But once you get into that, as the story progresses and it becomes less of a show and more of an emotional expression, it really adds a lot to the movie.
It's a visual delight.
It is, and of course, it's costumes.
The period is so vivid,
crazy,
and
the 80s,
the 80s, which as the 80s and the 90s for me as decades were not.
Your favorites.
My favorites. They lacked a lot of character as far as I was
the 80s
concerned.
were full of character.
Yes, but it was ugly character. It was really tacky. The 80s were tacky and the 90s were blah.
Well, the 90s were blah, I agree, but the 80s were tacky, but consciously. I mean, it was a decision. It was a decision,
an aesthetic,
to make it.
decision.
Yes, and I love that.
Made collectively in every industry, every human. It was.
You can't say it didn't have.
And it was fun. Yeah. In a way, it really was. It was fun in television. It was fun in
music.
Films.
There
was
great
fun in
music
music.
in the 80s.
Bad cars,
bad fashion,
but fun fashion.
And you definitely can't say that the 80s didn't have character. I mean, the 80s were all characters,
like cartoon characters.
Anyway, the movie stars Taron Egerton as Elton John.
I had never heard of him, never saw him anywhere, although I just saw his name in some movie that was on one of the pay channels. And he is a revelation.
Phenomenal performance.
Oh, and he did all the singing. And he's actually a better singer than Elton John as far as vocal.
That's debatable.
As far as vocals are concerned.
Debatable.
All right. But
Jamie Bell plays Bernie Taupin, who is
Lovely.
his longtime writer and collaborator. So Elton John does the music, he does the lyrics.
And I think that Elton was probably in love with him forever.
Jamie Bell, by the way, is Billy Elliot.
Billy Elliot.
Who is all grown up by now. Richard Madden plays John Reed. And again, how wonderful it is to see, you say
To
it.
see Rob Stark engaging in full-blown homosexual sex. It is so exciting that men, straight actors and straight actresses, I know there are many of you who feel the other way, but I think the fact that they unapologetically and with full vigor and commitment play gay roles, have gay sex, just shows how far we have come. It wasn't too long ago that agents were telling people, don't do this, it will ruin your career.
And they would have been right, probably.
They certainly...
Listen, when you look at Ellen and the puppy episode, Laura Dern for years couldn't get work after that. Oprah got death threats.
Yes, fortunately, the men from Brokeback Mountain did okay after that. That was sort of a turning point because they were such big stars.
And because the movie got so much acclaim.
The movie was so brilliant.
Yeah.
But this, when I see, male hero figure, Richard Madden, the bodyguard, and of course, again, as I said, Rob Stark of Game of Thrones, just being queer.
And proud.
Yeah, and
wonderful.
really full on sex.
Yes, they didn't shy away from that.
It was very, very thrilling to me as a gay woman.
Yes, and I before I get to the other actors, because there were some other notable actors to mention here, the other difference, speaking of full-blown sex, homosexual sex, the other difference between Rocketman and Bohemian Rhapsody was that Rocketman did not shy away from showing the drugs, the sex,
the ugly,
the self-destructiveness.
The ugly side, not the sex, of course, but the hardcore side of
rock and roll,
the destructive, and the destructive tendencies that being a rock and roll star sort of thrusts upon
and being
you.
in the music industry.
Being in the music industry.
And it's the same story that we saw in the Whitney documentary, in the Amy Winehouse documentary. When you make people so much money, when so many people make money off of you,
and you have to work very hard to support legions of people.
And when your work is who you are, I mean, it's not a 9-to-5 job that you go to and you can come home at the end of the day and be yourself. It takes a toll, an emotional toll. It does take a toll.
And that was the thing that many people, and I think rightly so, criticized about Bohemian Rhapsody, is they PG-13'd it down.
And I love this, by the way, that they apparently Elton John tried, who is executive producer on this movie, tried to make it happen for quite a few years, and everybody wanted him to make a PG-13 version of it. And he said, well, my life is not PG-13.
No.
So I love that he stuck to his guns, and he made the movie that he wanted, and he made the movie that needed to come out.
And it's a fantastic movie in every possible way. And I just want to interject something that's so surprising to women.
Definitely.
Sheila, who is his mother and a horrible woman, I kept looking at her and watching her and saying, she seems so familiar to me, but I can't for the life of me figure out who this actress is. She perfectly British. She had dark hair. Well, it wasn't until the credits, when I saw Bryce Dallas Howard's name there, that I realized that's who played his mother, Sheila. And she was sensational. It's, I think, the best transformative role of her acting life.
Oh, that's for sure.
She was unrecognizable in every way.
Yes, she completely disappeared into the character.
And she was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. She was.
I'm very pleased I give her a...
Yes. And another fun fact is that Gemma Jones, who plays Gentleman Jack, she plays Ann Lister's aunt. She's Reggie, which is, by the way, Elton John's original name, his real name. She's his grandmother, and a lovely, lovely character. And speaking of Reggie, young Reggie is played by Matthew Ilsley, and he is so, first of all, adorable to die for, but also such a wonderful, wonderful actor. Stephen McIntosh plays his father.
His terrible father.
And but just to go back a second, I want to mention again another difference between Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocketman, besides the fact that, yes, all the self-destructiveness and the drugs, Rocketman really, really focused on Elton John's journey, yes, through becoming a star, but not really. It was through recovery, both from drugs and from his self-hatred and loathing that he acquired at home about his sexuality. And so the movie really shows you the journey that he made of self-acceptance, of self-love, and how he almost, I mean, again, also in the almost in the case of Whitney and Freddie Mercury, how much the difficulty in accepting your sexuality was part of the problem with the drugs and bulimia and other things,
and
that are self-destructive.
especially because of the attitude of his parents. His mother was not. She just was self-centered.
Apparently, she was more horrible in real life.
Yes,
than in
but
the
she
movie.
was more self-centered than she was. But
but his father,
who even before he even appeared to be gay, it's just he was a musical genius. He was a savant,
but he was a sensitive, quiet,
sweet boy, and
delicate.
His father just couldn't love him, and we discovered later that he was capable of love.
Yeah.
His father.
So it's just such a moving, powerful movie, and I know we talked about it now for a long time, but it's just because really it deserved it.
The other thing I want to interject is that I think the whole film is almost framed as a memory. Because it opens with him going into rehab.
It's not even a memory. It's him telling
his story.
Group
exactly.
His story. Yes.
So there is a framework to it.
Yes.
And
that's why I said that really the structure is around his journey to recovery. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. There's a moment in the end that really, really made me cry. It's just beautiful.
It's a beautiful film.
Go see it, people. It's the perfect movie to see this month.
It really, really is. And to make you proud.
Yes, be proud, be proud. I'm still standing. I don't have the copyrights. Okay. Anyway, Rocketman, great soundtrack, obviously.
Oh.
Okay, now for something vastly different. A new show, we told you a little bit about it last week. It's called Straightforward, and it's on Acorn TV, our favorite streaming service. All 8 episodes are available right now as of Monday, June 10th. And I love that they, sometimes they do it once a week, but sometimes they recognize that certain shows need to be binged on. It's an international crime drama in the first co-production between Denmark and New Zealand. An interesting marriage there.
Very odd.
Yeah. What I love especially about this show is that it stars 3 women who are our protagonists, even though it's one of those shows where they're the criminals, but they're still our protagonists.
They are our protagonists, and they are 3 generations.
3 generations of women, and in advance, I will apologize for slaughtering these names. They are Danish names, and I probably don't know how to pronounce them right, so please bear with me. Cicely Stenspil is the star. Her mother is played by Vibeke Hastrup, and her daughter by Marie Boda. And they're the 3 generations. And what it's about is Sylvia, played by Cicely Stenspil, is a con woman who was trained to be a con woman by her father.
Sort of like Oliver Twist from childhood.
She pretty much probably was going to take over the family business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The mother chose not to know, but she knew.
She knew. She's like all of those crime families' mothers. Yeah. She knew.
Yeah, the daughter really didn't know. And so one day, the father of the family, who really ran the family business, gets shot. His daughter seeks revenge and then has to go out on the run because she and her mother and her daughter are all targets.
Yes.
And what she does, this all takes place in Denmark, and she runs to New Zealand. And there,
do we know why she runs to New Zealand? Is that about as far as she can get?
She used to live in Australia.
Oh, it's right.
Her father is English. She used to live in Australia, and so she goes to New Zealand. And yes, it is pretty much as far away as she can get, where she doesn't expect anybody to look for her. And there, she becomes friendly with this cafe owner, this elderly cafe owner, and his handsome son, and
who treat her like family. The father is such a kind man.
So the first episode starts a little slow, and it's in Denmark. It's very grim. It's very dark. It's very much
those
centered.
Scandinavian films tend to be,
right?
Especially in the winter.
and it's centered on the crime and the revenge and the, criminals. But once she goes to New Zealand in the second episode, I feel that it really opens up. First of all, visually, it opens up.
It's like getting to Oz. It's like it starts off in Kansas, and then there's the hurricane, and she ends up in Oz.
And it keeps going back and forth because her family is still in Denmark. And
hiding.
Right,
yeah.
and the man, Raven, or however they say it in Danish, is still looking for her in Denmark. So it keeps going back and forth between the two, and she needs to remotely try to protect her family, who are still being chased down. And but then you also see her tender sides. She has this. You find out more about her now that she can kind of let her hair down. Literally, she has a new haircut.
Yes, I think she finally went to her natural.
Well, she's not a natural blonde,
but her sort of
her natural
strawberry
look.
blonde. Yes, and she's quite attractive, especially much more so than that black fright wig.
So the point, though, when you start the show, the first episode is really not the way that it's going to be.
Don't give up.
Moving forward. So I really give it at least 2 episodes or 3. We've really been enjoying it once we got into
very much.
it.
And the 3 women, in their own ways, is each so beautiful. The grandmother, especially.
Yes. Straightforward is on Acorn TV right now. Go binge.
All right, so here's a movie that I didn't expect to really like very much. It's called Plus One. It's on digital and on demand starting June 14th. Written and directed by Jeff Chan and Andrew Reimer, and starring the divine and delightful Maya Erskine and Jack Quaid, who is the son of Dennis Quaid and
Meg Ryan.
Yeah. Ed Begley Jr., Rosalind Chow. They're excellent. What this is a rom-com. It's just an old-fashioned rom-com. And to me, the only rom-coms really worth watching are those with Julia Roberts, Meg Ryan, and Hugh Grant. Otherwise, I'm just not a rom-com fan. Well, this movie is delicious. And it's a very simple premise that manages to get a lot of messaging and warmth in it. It's about 2 friends in their probably early 30s.
Late 20s,
early 30s. And they hit one of those years when all of their friends are getting married.
I'm sure you've all been there.
And every 3 weeks, there's another wedding.
And every wedding is in a different state. It's insane. They have to fly all over the country.
Yes, of course. I think there's one in Hawaii that's probably a destination wedding. Yeah. But the rest of them you're just going to these people's hometowns. And they decide, because they don't have one of them, Maya Erskine's character, Alice, just broke up with a longtime boyfriend, Nate, who she talks about incessantly. And I don't know if Ben ever...
No, Ben is the kind of serial dater who always finds something, like Seinfeld, like she eats her peas, one at a time with a fork.
Yep, so
that sort of person.
That's it. It's over. He's commitment shy.
Yeah.
But they've been friends since college, I think. Yeah. And... it is.
They decide to be each other's plus ones for all these weddings.
To make it a little bit easier. And it works surprisingly well. First of all, the dialogue is very witty, very smart.
Well written. Very well written.
It's an extremely well written script and excellent acting, because by the 2 of them in particular, but even the supporting characters, because this kind of a movie absolutely has to have sharp, funny writing, or they're deadly.
Right.
And this movie has it all.
And Maya Erskine is truly a comic genius.
She's like a little bit cuter Aquafina. She has that rhythm,
that dry
humor, and she's very good at physical
humor. And she's not afraid.
Humor.
Exactly. She's not afraid
to make an idiot of herself. Yes. She's adorable, and yes, it's somewhat predictable, but not overly so.
It actually has a lot of originality.
It gets to where it's going with a lot of style, and it's really, really a wonderful film. We both laughed out loud many times, and I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it.
Yes, Plus One, on demand, on digital, starting June 14th, so you can go see it right now.
Yes, it won Best Narrative Feature and Best Audience
at the 2019
Tribeca Film Festival. And let me say, that's not an easy room.
No, it's not. Now on to another thing that we talked about a little bit last week. We promised we'd give you more.
Right. It's the new reboot of Tales of the City, created by Lauren Morelli, starring. Now, the only three people who were originals are Laura Linney as Marianne, Olympia Dukakis as the divine Anna Madrigal, who reigns over the people at Barbary Lane, and Paul Gross, who plays Brian. Added to the cast are Ellen Page, Murray Bartlett, Charlie Barnett from Chicago Fire, Mei Hong,
and a bunch of other people who are going to be...
who will be coming in and out.
coming and going.
Michael Park is an early.
Victor Garber is coming, Molly Ringwald,
As the World Turns fans will, of course, know Michael Park. And Murray Bartlett was also on soaps. Let me just throw that out to my soap community. So a middle-aged Marianne returns to San Francisco and Barbary Lane to reunite with the eccentric family of friends she left behind. It's Anna Madrigal's 90th birthday, and that's the ostensible reason for her return. She's been away. She left to have a career. I don't remember very much from the original, except that Marianne, as I recall, was annoying then, and she's annoying now.
Which, by the way, I adore Laura Linney, but she is so good at playing annoying characters.
She is just amazing. You love her. There are things about her to love, but she certainly doesn't ever shy away from playing someone who you just every once in a while
want to slap.
I was just going to say that. No, we're not violent. We're not talking about violence against women. But you just want to slap her. And it's very. The look is very saturated. Trying to find that.
To me, the minute that I started watching it, and I didn't see the original. I haven't seen it yet. I know I promised I would, but I haven't yet. But it looks to me like very much a '90s show in that the set looks very set-like. It looks kind of fake. The fake lighting, which is meant to look like it's bright California, San Francisco, is overbearing.
Well, and also it's idealized. I mean, to her, those were probably the happiest years of her life. And it was 20-some-odd years ago. It
is very saturated. It has a very much like a 90s look, which I'm sure is a very conscious decision to make it look like the original. Kind of have the same feel and the same vibe. But it's actually quite different, I'm sure.
Yes.
Because it's a lot about the new generation.
Very much so. And I say a little bit to its detriment, but that's because I'm old.
Well, and that's because a lot of the original viewers who will come back to look at what to find the show that they loved in the 90s will, again, it's kind of like I'm thinking about the reboot of The L Word, which I'm a little worried about because it's called Generation Q. Mm-hmm. I love that the character of Margot, one of the young kids. And to me, young kids, there are always too many storylines that have to do with technology and
there is technology.
There's very much technology. Mm-hmm. These two kids who are trying to make it big on Instagram. Like, boring, yawn. But Margot, who's one of the young kids, who is a lesbian, whose lesbian partner actually transitioned, and she's now a trans man, and she's trying really, really hard.
But she's having a hard time with it. She's a lesbian. And he's quite unforgiving.
He's very much in his own world, in his own transition. He has a lot going on. I can understand that. But what I love about that is nowadays with the new generation, there is so much about this being non-binary, now no labels, pansexuality, being just open and going with the flow.
Pronouns.
And I don't mind that, but what I mind is that there's so much about, just be flexible and no labels. And there are still a lot of us who do have a label.
We are who we are.
Exactly.
And
who are not. I mean, I'm a lesbian. I am 100% a lesbian.
And
I'm
if
not
I decided to
become
a man, I know that you would still love me, but I'm not sure you'd still want to be my wife.
The thing is, I'm not open. I mean, I'm physically and biologically who I am. And that's that. And I love that through this character, she really, really is having a hard time because she says, I'm a lesbian.
She's trying so hard because she loves him so much.
And I know that I should love the person and not the gender, but she is a lesbian. Anyway, I really appreciate that even though there is a lot about this non-binary and gender non-conforming and blah, blah, blah.
It's not all there is.
It's also about some people are just who they are.
Yes. And Marianne, she wants to try to recapture, I think. And she also has a daughter there.
Right. Ellen Page.
Ellen Page plays her daughter. And it's also a complicated...
Very
complicated.
I think the first couple of episodes, or the first episode rather, was a little clunky and it felt a little clumsy. But it really, once they get into their groove, I've been enjoying it.
Yes, I think it's bingeable in that the story progresses in a certain way that the more you watch it, the more you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to say it.
Mm-hmm. The more you get to know the people, as always.
Yeah, it's a soap.
These are new people, and it is a soap, and there's a mystery.
There is a mystery, actually.
Very interesting mystery. And I recommend it highly. If you like the first one, if you loved the first one, you will also like this, and you might come to love it.
But you actually don't have to have watched the
you
original.
don't at all have to. There are references, but it doesn't matter. They're self-contained.
Yeah.
But the first series was so wonderful.
But as we said
and it's available.
As we said last week, if you want to see the original, just go to Acorn TV or buy the box set from them, and you can binge the entire thing.
Right.
So, Tales of the City, all the episodes are right now on Netflix.
All 10. Mm-hmm.
You can go check it out right now. And quickly, we have just a couple of small things to tell you. A re-review of...
Yeah, we told you a little bit about Dead to Me, which is...
No, we told you quite a bit, but we hadn't seen most of it yet.
Oh,
so.
From my point of view, we didn't tell you a lot, because we didn't tell you how we felt about it. And how we felt about it was, again, with each episode, we fell more and more and more in love with this series, especially as the relationship between Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini grew, and as the mystery and the secret became more and more intricate and much harder for Linda Cardellini's character to keep a secret. Christina Applegate is just wild. Her rage is all-encompassing, and her grief, and she's just a power source. You feel like you could plug in a lamp to her.
You could charge your phone.
Exactly, and it would light up. She's so full of this repressed and oftentimes expressed energy and anger. And Linda Cardellini is so sweet, and she's caught in a situation that was accidental and is just so hard for her to bear. And they fall in love with each other, not in a sexual way, but as friends. They're sort of all each other has, really.
And they have such great chemistry. And I from what I've seen, they're really good friends in real life. So and it shows.
Oh, and by the way, it was created by Liz Feldman.
Yes.
It's all from a female point of view. I couldn't, again, recommend this higher.
Dead to Me on Netflix now, and they have been renewed for a second season, I'm happy to say, because there's plenty
terrific.
to
There's a lot more to explore, believe me.
Now, just quickly, I wanted to just express my utter delight and gratitude for this show that is Pose, which just premiered in its second season, and the first, what a way to start a season.
Oh my God.
They sure set the tone. It's such a powerful, meaningful, moving episode, so well acted, so well written. This is now the second season, it seems, really is delving more into the AIDS era and Act Up. Thank you, Act Up.
The birth of Act Up. And if you remembered loving the last season, which you will have, this will remind you, and then some, why you loved it so much, in case you didn't remember a lot of the specifics.
But to me, it's and then some, and then some, and then some.
And then
because
some. In this first episode, it seems like we've already watched 5 episodes. Yeah. There was so much going on, so much information, so much emotion, so much story. Yeah. So much happened in just this first episode.
Again, highly, highly recommend it. It's such a good show, and a wonderful way to, again,
celebrate Pride.
End this episode on a proud note. Just that we have Tales of the City, we have Pose, we have Rocketman. I mean, truly,
Tuesdays,
happy Pride Month.
And by the way, this is Tuesdays
on FX.
And
yes.
Happy
Pride Month.
This is a very proud podcast.
Yeah, and we are proud.
We are proud.
So be proud. Go out there, celebrate March. Act up.
Wear your colors.
And we'll see you here next week.
Okay, have a great one. Bye.